I'm back. Hello. Are you there? Okay, cool. Let me mute all these. And then let me start playing. Because this version's goated. Okay. I have the GGX Advanced, the version of Momentary Life playing, because that version's goated. Yeah, no, it's really good. Okay, hello everyone. Um, I woke up like an hour ago, so I'm still waking up. Sorry, I should have woken up earlier. But welcome to our interview with Bread, HypedForSlicedBread. It's thank you for so much for coming. First of all, second of all, I got some announcements. We got BBCF. I don't have any like things for this, but we got BBCF on Wednesday, and we've got Plus R on Friday. So make sure to I'll link to the challenge pages for those in the chat right now. But we've also next Saturday, so our Saturday event, that's not this one, is going to be the exhibition series. So we've got that on Saturday, so make sure to check out that next Saturday. It's going to be really fun. I've got some really good ones lined up, so I hope everyone... Jazzy says hi, Bread. Hey, what's up? Okay, and then this is the... We got Plus R on Friday, yeah. I don't remember if I said that. Okay. And I lost my voice because last night was also a really good bracket, and so I had two really good brackets this week, so I lost my voice, so... Hee hee. This is fun. Okay, so... I wanted to start out with, so I know you have... How long have you been playing this game? Because I could not remember you saying that to me ever before. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. You can't hear Bread? I hate to hear it. You're showing up in the thing. Yeah, here, let me... Yeah, here. Let me see. Can you tell? Yeah, yeah. I use Streamlabs, so yeah. Yeah, I don't like dealing with stuff.
But like in the new
Maybe that's why it was having trouble. I mean, it was doing this fine last night. You heard him for a second. A single second. Okay. Yeah, here, let me look on the stream. Yeah, you can't hear you. That's so strange. Like, everyone could hear everyone last night. Okay, give me a sec. I hate to hear. You couldn't hear the video audio either. Yeah, here, I'm just gonna remove the audio and re-add it. Maybe that'll do something.
But yes, for anyone watching, if you've never streamed Discord audio, it is
It is such a pain in the ass. It is such a pain in the ass. Okay, you still can't hear you. Let me see. Let me see. Here, maybe I can just... I could probably add it through like an audio input thing. Like, because, like, the desktop audio is picking up your sound, so I thought it would just be putting out your sound. Yeah. Okay. Skype was so easy to set up. Okay, you can hear him now? Jazzy. Oh, you can't hear the music either, so it's just not capturing any of my desktop audio.
And there's like the small chance that if you've plugged in anything that has like...
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. It might be the default Windows settings. Okay, maybe that fixed it, because it wasn't letting the stereo mix come out. Yeah, that's really odd. Okay.
Yeah, if it is still weird and it seems like everything's good, we could try an actual Discord call, and maybe it would be different, but I feel like it would maybe be the
I feel like
same.
it'd probably not be different because it's not picking up the music I'm playing either in the background. But it was picking up the Spotify music at the beginning of the stream. Yeah, it's like routing things weird.
I can hear it now. I mean, I opened the stream up and I can hear the music.
You can hear the music, but not you.
I'm coming through. At least I am at this exact moment.
Okay, it's all good, everyone. We figured it out. Okay, so everything's good.
Okay. I think it's good now, right? Just like anyone in chat, if you can confirm, but I heard it and it sounded like I was coming through finally.
Okay, okay. Maybe it's because I had you set as output as no output in desktop shit. I don't know.
Sometimes broadcast audio is considered different, and you like your default device for communications might have been.
It's because I had it monitor only mute output, and now I have it on monitor and output, which usually works. But okay, cool. So we'll get back to the start. Sorry about that little detour. So you said you had been playing for about 6 months when 2.1 dropped?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I started Riv 2. I don't remember if anyone remembers when 2.1 came out. It's been a really long time now.
Here, I'll Google it.
But yeah, I think 2.1 was like a little bit after that Evo, I want to say. I think they remembered to release it. Yeah, so I think I started playing... I'm pretty sure I started playing like late 2017 then. Something like that.
Cool. Well, that's been a little bit. When did you start competing in the game?
Not that long ago.
Yeah,
I don't think
I thought you didn't start competing until around 2021.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I never competed in Exerd. But like, it's funny because I'm not sure why. I guess I was just lazy because so here's the thing to clarify. Because some people have asked me like, when did I start Exerd? And I started Exerd back in like that late 2017. But I have, I guess, more of a competitive history. I was playing competitive Melee at locals.
Yeah, I knew you played competitive Smash for a little while.
For like 2 or 3 years already. However old you are when you're in like junior year of high school.
Yeah,
that was like
17.
So add another like 2 years, give or take.
Jazzy
to
said
me
2.1
playing.
came out when he was in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2.1 was like right when I was out of high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd been playing that, and I did compete in Melee before I started playing Xrd, and I stopped playing Melee.
Yeah.
But I never competed in Xrd until like last year. I started entering Rev Tuesdays. Not even because I was like, oh, I want to compete, but the funny thing is like, Drive had come out. And Strive really hurt the numbers on release for Xrd
So
Online, obviously.
You're like, I'll just give him a bone.
It wasn't that. It was more like I was just like, well, if I want to play people, I can play them on Tuesday for sure because this is happening every Tuesday.
Oh, so you were just trying to find people to play with?
That was actually, yeah. I was mostly just
so
trying to find
cute,
people to play
actually.
with. Yeah.
Well, I know people will be here on Tuesday.
So I started entering them, but after that I was like, okay, this is pretty fun. I'll keep playing Xrd competing. It wasn't just that after a while.
Yeah. So what, like, I wanted to, like, so, like, it's always, like, I always ask, like, what made Xrd your game? Like, what about Xrd where you were like, you didn't want to play Melee anymore?
It was, I think the thing about Xrd was, one, the game visually, everything about Xrd was the best for me, right? It was anime aesthetic. It had cool combos, the characters looked cool, the music was great. So like everything about that game aesthetically was just perfect. So I started liking it because of that. And then
that's exactly what Ray said too. Ray was like, it just looked cool.
It looked really cool. But I know from like a gameplay standpoint, like I'll keep it brief because I'm not trying to talk about like Melee all day. But one of the arguable downsides of Melee as and platform fighters in generally is you can play very non-committal in a lot of platform fighters if you choose to. There's like a lot of strong non-committal options in Melee, at least at the time. The meta was like less interesting. And so I remember like thinking, okay, traditional fighting games feel cool in the sense that, one, they're very intentionally designed. You know, Melee is a coincidentally amazing game.
Yeah.
Like it is one of the best games ever, but it's like purely by coincidence, which means you have only a handful of really good characters, and there's also a lot of things in there that just don't make sense balance-wise.
Yeah. And it never got balance update or anything, so
yeah,
you're stuck
exactly.
with it.
So like the fact that I was like, okay, I like that this game is more deliberately designed and there's less overall like low committal strong options for a lot of situations, and you can force more specific interactions. That started to appeal to me. And then I admittedly, it's not like I was trying to play other fighting games. I just liked Rev 2, so I only played Rev 2.
Yeah.
And then I just kept playing Rev 2.
And then Rev 2 became your game. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's basically what happened, yeah.
that's really cool. I like that you came from a place of like, I didn't have to commit to anything, and now I like have to think more about like what I'm committing to. Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about that difference between platform fighters and 2D fighters.
It's funny, right? Because there's also like things that are interesting. Like Rev 2 is a game I started with because it got me visually, like the presentation and everything of the game was good. But the actual system itself of the game is also what made me stick with it after a while. And like you'll hear people say it like all day, every day, like this game is actually like really similar to Melee, and it's like kinda. I think you can only be so similar to a platform fighter when you're a traditional fighter. But I will say, like having now tried like other fighting games, traditional ones, Rev 2 has a lot of like specifics in its movement and positioning and the pacing of the game that at times does remind me of what I used to like about Melee.
Do you find like the movement, like even if it's not a platform fighter, do you find it like, because I remember you were talking about to me when you were doing the review of my matches, you were talking about how like good the movement is and how like intentionally you can place yourself. Do you find that similar to Melee?
Yeah. Once you're more comfortable with it, obviously there's some sort of like asterisks in there because there are characters with limited movement. But a majority of the cast in Rev 2 has a run and an air dash, forward and back, which means that like if you play one character, it might not feel like it, but so when you play platform fighters, one of the cool things that people like about platform fighters is, one, all the controls are literally exactly the same. So if when you play another character, it's all the same buttons, right? There's oh, this guy has a DP, this one doesn't, right? There's none of that. It's just universal inputs across the board for everyone, which means you can transition between characters like really easily without having to learn much stuff. And also you're rewarded for learning how to position yourself deliberately in those games, right? Like I could play, Fox in Melee, and I know how to move with him, and I can also play Marth because I know how to move in general in the game. And Rev 2, like, it might not feel like that because there's different run speeds and all that stuff, but it really is kind of a similar idea. Once you learn how to position with your tools, a lot of characters do it similarly, and there's minor variations, a lot like Melee.
I feel that a lot with Guilty Gear in general. Like, even if like inputs are different and like movement speeds and everything are different, moves themselves are different, a lot of it carries over because you can just be like, oh, do they have a quarter circle forward? Do they have a quarter circle back? What does this do? What does this do? Kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
There's a lot of things that get rewarded by it. So say like you're playing another character that has a strong anti-air, you know where to stand in general to place your anti-airs. Now you do it with this character, right? And so you make minor adjustments and stuff like that. And that's a big part of my attraction. Like if you ever drop by, if I'm streaming something, you probably will not see me play Baiken. And no, it's not necessarily because like, oh, I'm sick of her, but it's just I enjoy playing the other characters because it is like different flavors of the same thing, kind of.
I can definitely see between Baiken and Answer, because the Answer's the one you've been playing a lot lately. I can see that being very a good transition. And then Soul, Answer has a lot of Soul-esque buttons.
All the characters I play, definitely, like, I've learned start to emphasize more of, like, a specific playstyle. But I figure you probably ask about that later.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, as far as...
segue.
Yeah.
That's the next question, so finish what you were going to say.
Yeah. Well, I know the one of the questions was going to be something along the lines of, like, why did you pick Baiken?
Yeah.
And the answer is, honestly, probably as simple as, like, most people's answers for Rev 2, which is, I just thought she looked really cool.
That is most people's. Yeah.
It's also worth noting, so, like, one of the funny things is, like, I joke about how I don't think if you took me currently and introduced me to Rev 2, I would play Baiken. I don't think that would happen. I actually don't.
Yeah.
Which is really funny to think. And it's not like I hate Baiken. I always have to like tell people, like, no, I don't hate her. It's just the funny part is like her actual playstyle is probably not exactly what I want out of fighting games most of the time.
Yeah, I notice when you play other characters, you definitely like are less like aggressive, and you play like more like of a spacing game.
Yeah. No, so when it came to picking a character, and this ties into like, because people ask me like, how did you get to Rev 2? And it was I wouldn't have found Rev 2 if it wasn't for like the people at my Melee local, because that Melee local was a card shop with an area like inside the shop and then a lobby, and the lobby had a TV and a couch, like a pretty big couch. And so they would bring a PS4, and a couple of the people there liked playing other fighting games too. And so at the time Rev 2 was relatively new. So they would run Rev 2. And I didn't care much for the other ones when I saw them. I was like, oh, Street Fighter, Tekken looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
But when I saw Rev 2, I was like, whoa, that looks really cool.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way Guilty Gear was for a lot of people. It was so different from everything else that was out at the time. But every Guilty Gear that's come out, it looked so different.
Yeah. It was a really cool game when I saw it. And I remember I was always like intimidated to try it, because I was like, it's different. I always thought traditional fighting games at the time, I was like, they're different. I'm not going to like what they are.
Yeah.
And eventually I was like, whatever. I sat down and I picked the combo trials of a character. Well, a friend of mine kind of sat me down and was like, dude, just try it. Yeah. And then I kind of asked, I'm sure I asked like the general questions most people ask, like, oh, who do you think I should play? Yeah. And his response, thankfully, was not like Kai or Soul. It was like, no, man, look at the screen and what do you think looks cool?
That's kind of like, who do you think looks cool? If you end up not liking them, you can always learn someone else.
Yeah, so he told me, because I was like, oh, well, I've never played, and he told me, I don't want you to worry about that. He told me that, like, he basically told me, you will suck no matter what, right? Which is a great thing to tell someone at the beginning. So you're gonna suck no matter what. Don't worry about who you pick right now. So he told me, pick whoever you think looks cool. And I remember seeing One-Armed Samurai Lady, and I was like, okay, this looks really cool, and her combos looked pretty cool. And so I picked her, and I kind of just played her without understanding like what it meant to try to find what you like in fighting games. I was so new to the genre, that I was kind of just like, oh well, I should learn how to do this because this is what's good with this character. You know, I had that kind of mentality. Never once did it occur to me like, oh, that's not true. There's a really funny tweet that I have on my my Twitter. That's like the one time I almost switched to Milia instead, which is funny to think now because I would never play Milia now.
Yeah, I had actually had the similar experience where when I first started playing fighting games, I was introduced to fighting games with my husband was like, hey, like, this is an all-female roster. I bet you can wonder what game, think what game this was, and I was like,
Sure.
So it's like River City Ransom, and he was like, no, you like fight each other, and I was like, and then we ended up playing Skullgirls on our fucking Switch, and I would never play Skullgirls now. I that game has nothing interesting to me, but it was the game that made me be like, maybe I think these are pretty cool, and I want to play them, and I played Valentine in that game, so I thought her movement was really cool, so I ended up thinking I want to play these like fast, like mix-up heavy, like they just do whatever they want, ninja-esque characters, and then like all over the screen, and then now I do not play that type of character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really, so the thing that I find incredibly interesting when I talk to newer people in fighting games is the people that are pretty early on and sound like they already kind of know what they want, because I never went through that. Maybe it was because I learned fighting games through like a handful of friends that weren't like heavily invested in that game's like competitive scene. The people that introduced me to Rev 2 are not like interested at all in competitive Rev 2. They just played fighting games that they thought were cool. And so like never at any point did I kind of have like an understanding of like I want more mid-rangey characters. I just thought, and maybe it was coming from a game like Melee where people are so like married to one character anyway, that I never once thought about like switching Baiken as a character except for like one time.
Who did you play
most of the
Melee?
time I was just like, what's up?
Who did you play in Melee?
Melee, I was pretty boring. I picked Fox, specifically because at the time I actually thought forward enough to think I don't want to play any matchups that I would find annoying. So I picked a character that gets to play however he wants in any matchup.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted you. I was just like, I have to know who he plays.
Oh yeah, everyone's always curious. If I played Melee now, I don't know if I would play Fox. I would maybe play like Falco or Marth.
I think Peach is so cool.
she's a very interesting character.
Yeah. If I ever played Smash, I would end up playing Peach probably.
She's pretty good in Melee too.
Yeah, she's also got like a lot going on.
She's got like it's very interesting different mechanics from the other good characters.
She has float cancels in Melee still, right?
Yeah, she does. Yeah. Yeah, but my original point was just I played Baiken until I kind of just kept the ball rolling. I was like, okay, well, if I want to quit Baiken, maybe I should try to learn how to do this first. I was very stubborn about it, in the sense that it was like, oh well, I haven't learned how to do this yet, so it's like I'll try to learn how to do this, and maybe it'll help me with like the flaws I have right now. And eventually, I just got very good at Baiken. And now it's funny to think, because it's like now I know that I play very like more mid-rangey, like kind of like strike throwy characters.
You still do like the mix-ups though.
The mix-ups are fun. Obviously, mix-up will always be fun. But honestly, characters that run like excessively heavy set play, put something on top of you, and now I party. Like I don't really find myself super drawn to those characters. Because I know that like part of what I've learned, at least having played Rev 2, that I enjoy about fighting games is like the raw interaction of situations. I don't want it to feel like I hit you and now it's your responsibility to block correctly, and then if you do, then good for you. I want it to feel more like I get my hit and I knock you down, and as I get close to you, you need to make a decision, and this decision is going to decide your fate, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I find that far more interesting than like block correctly. I find it a lot more fun.
That's kind of my thing with Ino. Is like I think Ino is very interesting. Like her execution and everything she has to do to like get the good shit is very interesting. I do not like her game plan. And I'm always like torn around like, oh, but I don't like just like don't get hit. So but I think she's so cool anyway. So yeah, I struggle with that too. So I think finding the kind of character you like is like hard, especially when you're newer. And then you end up playing this character that you don't really like, and you don't know why it's not working.
Yeah, that disconnect is really interesting. Yeah, the disconnect moment is like really tricky. Which is why like I do give warnings to people in general. When people say things about Rev 2, like, yeah, characters, there is a style to each character, right? That's like part of what people enjoy about the game. You can watch a certain player and then watch the same character on a different player, and there will be variations in how they do things. But the core of the character will never change, right?
Like you're never not gonna do like hover stuff with Bedman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a good example is like if somebody told me like I'm a very like aggressive person, I like rush down, and they wanted to play say like Bedman, I would say like I would not strongly recommend Bedman.
Yes.
Like you can probably find a way to get a lot of mileage out of it because of the strong system mechanics in the game. But you will reach a point where, assuming what I tell people is like, if you're actually interested in becoming just like really sweaty in the game, trying to become one of the, like in quotations the best, then like you will reach a point where if your innate style conflicts a little too strongly with the natural traits of your character, you will probably run into a wall. Just a bit. And honestly, that wall is very high, which is cool to think, because it's like the average person doesn't really care about getting that good, and that's fine. They just want to be good enough that they can enjoy certain parts of the game. And the cool thing is like you could play a very aggressive, say, Bedman, and get really good with Bedman, like to like a very high point, especially compared to other games.
Yeah, you can get very far with like kind of. I guess that this game is interesting because you can get very far with like playing wrong, not wrong per se, but like playing in a very atypical way for like not just your character but for the game as well. Yeah, I think that's something interesting about this game.
But yeah, I've definitely mentioned it before that Baiken is a character where like I will never let go of Exert Baiken in the sense that like I owe so much to that character, which is funny to think and say. But it like I would not be here and like I'd still be playing Rev 2 if I didn't like that character enough to keep playing the game. Even if obviously I play her very limited on my stream because I've been finding other characters more fun to play with her, I will still play her, especially when there's a rotation of like really good players. Then it's like okay, I like playing her. I think part of what drove me away from playing her as much casually on my stream was that she does run a lot of like standard set play with the projectile. And it gets a little boring in the sense that, like it's not very interactive. It's really good, don't get me wrong, it's really good.
Yeah.
But like I don't get the same satisfaction out of just like running simple set play and then like winning against like, you know, like mid or less experienced players than I would just like, oh, let me just play a different character.
Yeah,
but
let me just like, yeah, I get that.
At the highest level, I usually end up going back to her because the interactions are really specific, and you get like more out of it than just like, oh, the set play is carrying me basically.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. Like I was talking to Amma the other day because I was having a breakdown, as I usually do, and Amma was like, I think you should play more weaker players because I generally just play players who are on my level or better than me. And Amma was like, I think you should actually just play weaker players because that will get like the like this is what I do here down and better than like playing people who are like varying their options, which is something I deal with.
The big thing is like the weaker players are incredibly important in the sense that like there's when people are brand spanking new to fighting games, I tell them, dude, just go play arcade mode if you want. Honestly, you were so new to the fighting game that like if you go and mash and beat up a CPU, it might not feel as fun because it's not a human being, and it doesn't feel as rewarding, I guess. But like you were so new, you won't tell. But eventually, you were like once you're like mid level, like around there, you can't go to arcade mode and like feel that like, oh, I'm improving beating up this really predictable computer. You need a certain amount of like human intelligence behind the person, but you need it to be a low stress environment. Like that's the big thing. You fight less experienced, weaker players because it's a low stress environment where you're gonna get good and bad things out of it. You will get both, no matter what. You will get both. Because you are going to cement everything you know against new players. That's the idea, right?
Yeah, that's what Amma was saying to me as well. Yeah.
The simplest way I think about it usually is if you fight weaker players, you're going to cement everything you know. Everything you do is going to get cemented in you way harder, which is good in the sense that like if you do anything good, that is now something that you are comfortable doing. When you go fight people at your level or specifically like higher level, it's going to be where you're going to see it obviously the most, is like they are going to beat all of the bad things out of you. specifically, right? If you do some good things, then you're not really going to notice it as much when you fight good people, but they're in there. Like those simple things that you've learned are there, and they were going to mostly beat bad habits out of you or specific bad habits out of you, right?
Yeah.
And so like the way I tell people to approach, at least the way I would approach learning at one point was like, okay, if I'm fighting somebody weaker than me, I guess like very small side note, I have personally like a very like growth like directed mindset. So like I don't get like a sense of like, this isn't fun if I go into playing fighting games and I'm like, I'm going to specifically learn this. I know that is like draining for some people. And I tell those people, like, don't know if it's draining for you, don't always play fighting games with that mentality. Don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes just play them to mash. Sometimes just enjoy the game. But you know, say that you feel like having like a growth oriented mindset that game or that day. If you fight someone weaker than you, most of the time what I would do is I would think of it as, okay, well, I'm probably gonna win no matter what. And honestly, you shouldn't care about winning that heavily anyway. It'll just be bad for your mindset over time anyway. But either way, so it's a less stressful environment. I would tell myself like, okay, there are things I'm gonna do that I know, having played better people, are bad habits. I am going to do my best to beat this person without using these things that I have now identified as bad habits. The reason is that like it since it's a low stress environment, I feel comfortable removing things from my game plan that would normally I would get away with them at this level, right? That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Is like you might go to lower level and get to do whatever you want all over again, but that's not the point. The point is that this is a really easy environment for you to test new things. Like oh, I have this weirdly bad habit of doing this specific thing. I'm not going to do this here, and I'm going to keep playing this person without that like bad habit in my rotation of options as much as I can. The biggest reason why this is important at this level, a lot of people will tell you like, oh, play less experienced people because like it's just low stress in general, and that's true. But the big thing is like this is a good environment in the sense that like if I have a hard time playing without this thing that I'm relying on at low level, and then I like don't ever deal with that. So say I go to a high level match, every time I'm wrong, it is significantly more punishing. That's the big thing, right? Like it turns into the memes that Rev 2 is thought of as like you're like intermediate fighting like super high level. You lost one exchange, you might lose that round because the gap is just that wide.
Word, that's me for like every round against anyone because I play
yeah. It is hard when you're a momentum character, but when it comes to that, like that's the thing people don't really think about as much is like it's harder to train yourself to learn how to be like better and improve those things in a high level environment, because it's like if now you think to yourself like, all right, this is a bad habit, I'm gonna try playing without it. You've never done this in general, right? So now you're doing it against someone who's really good at the game. You've removed a part of your game plan. You have like no idea how to play without it, and now you feel the gap like even more substantially, because again, every mistake you make is like, oh, that's so hard, like how do I even approach trying to win now? But when you do it against someone that's weaker than you, it's like, okay, I don't have this tool, how am I winning without it, right? And every time you're wrong at that level, it's not that bad, right? Okay, I lost,
I'll get a Gatling string into a knockdown.
I'll get another try, maybe 2 tries at least in this round, right? You don't just get steamrolled. But that's why I say like I think that's a good approach for making good use of the lower level thing. When you're at your own level, I think like when it's like even player versus even player, I think you can have like whatever mentality you want. That's usually like the most ideal practice, because like you're gonna
both at the same time.
Yeah, you can mostly do both. And then at the highest level, I mostly tell people if you're fighting someone that's significantly better than you, you're gonna have to. I mean, obviously people know that they're gonna lose, but specifically like try your best to notice like what you died for multiple times in a row for, right? Like, hey, I've been pressing a button here, and every single time it feels like I'm dying, right? Okay, I will make note of that against this character. Or hey, the string that I thought was really strong is actually getting blown up every time, and then you kind of like make note of that. Right? It doesn't. Not everything is necessarily a bad option just because it's losing. But the idea is like high level players are going to show you where problems are in your game plan more than anything else.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna be impossible to fix those in the moment. When you're newer or like mid level. But you can make note of it. The big thing is like. If people don't mind, you can spend the extra time and then go and then watch yourself play a little bit. And like people say like, well, what am I looking for? Well, the simplest approach is like look for contact. Like neutral is very abstract in a lot of situations, and it's too vague to sort of like always map out the same way. But like points of contact, like once those happen, a lot of the interactions kind of like minimize to a certain amount. So it's like basically like when you're watching your own replays at any level, look for like points of contact. Is how I put it, right? Like, oh, I got a hit and I got them knocked down. What do I do? Oh, they hit me and they knocked me down. What do they do, right, etc.
Yeah, I think once I was having trouble. Like I used to have a lot of trouble using training mode, and I asked Pat about this in his column, and Pat like it basically boiled down to lab the last thing you died to.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. It is as simple as like something like that.
Yeah.
Usually for newer like mid-level players, I try generalizing as much as I can because you realize the later end of at least the game like Rev 2 is a lot of just learning the puzzle piece by piece. But piece by piece is brutal when you're new.
Yeah.
So like, you generalize as much as you can.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I have to like learn matchups. Like
yeah, you're puzzle piecing it now.
And it's pretty annoying.
Yeah, it is the slower like plateau point where your progress is happening, but it doesn't feel like it. But yeah, and that whole long discussion is in terms of like when it comes to improving. You're gonna need to fight new people, no matter what. I know people really like fighting high level people because they think it challenges them, but after a certain point, it's not productive practice because you're not actually like internalizing really anything that's happening. You're just kind of getting beat up more than anything else.
The big old unit says, "I feel that I can't neutral skip as much with Slayer anymore. Now I have to think. Life is so hard." So true, Uzi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question I wanted to ask you was so like this, you probably thought this one was pretty funny when you read it. You're like described as having that dog in him. Like when I talk to people who like my friends who have played you who aren't like super competitive, they're like, it doesn't feel impossible to like get him to low life, but then he's at low life and suddenly it feels impossible to do anything against him.
It's funny, yeah, like, so that, like, kind of like tenacity, right?
Yeah,
people say, like, how do you, like, not give up? And I think, like, the big thing is, when you are deep inside Rev 2 and, like, the far end of it.
Down in the bowels of the game.
Yeah, the really big thing, there's a lot of ways to answer that question, but really it's more like, I actually do give up in hopeless situations a good amount, but the big thing is, like, this is like tangential. It's not like actually directly answering, but normally the secret to that thing is like resource management. Is like usually the way I think of it. A big thing I've pointed out for Rev 2 specifically that people will kind of succumb to at a mid level is like over reliance on meter. Is something that's like the beauty. The reason I think Rev 2 is so sick. When looking at it now from like this perspective, like on the other side of the spectrum, is that I can see like what it looks like the game's design intentions were, or at least like kind of like grasp at them.
Yeah.
And I get to appreciate like how well designed Rev 2 is as like a game that you learn. It is so like cool to think about because when I say like over reliance on meter, people might not realize like what I fully mean when I say that, but it's because the way that Rev 2 and the older Guilty Gear titles in general are designed is like I always say like meter is king, and meter is king in every game. That's not unique to Rev 2, but you can use meter for so many things in Rev 2.
Yeah, such as the X moves and supers.
It's so like it's more than just. Because so the thing is, like, obviously roaming cancels, right? And people will say like, haha, YRC is like broken, because it is. But the thing is, like, there are multiple ways to use that singular mechanic. It's not just projectile YRC. There are a lot of ways to use it. And this is true for like all the roaming cancels and other things like that. And what my point here is like, over reliance on meter is sort of like, you can use that resource a lot in Rev 2 to compensate for your weaknesses as a player. And the more that you compensate for them, the less that you're actually like trying to improve that part of your skill set. And again, I'll always like reiterate, that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to improve. I always stress this because I see like a lot of newer people have too much of like, I have to get better mentality with fighting games.
Yeah.
So I will always say like a million times over, no, you don't. But I'm going to always speak from the competitive side.
Yeah, it's like unless you truly want to, you don't have to. Like you have to enjoy it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, say you are worried about improvement. That kind of thing, like there are so many people I will fight that are like so like good enough, plenty good enough to get me really close to losing a round, and they haven't realized all the resources it took to get them there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times the scary thing is like, if they get there and they don't close it out, it's actually a really, really high mountain that they have to climb, more so than you would think, given that like just like a glance without thinking about it.
Is that because they gave you a lot of resources doing that?
It's because they've done their absolute best to sort of like spend everything they can to make sure that they're still like in a good position, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
A good way to think of it is like, it's not that I've been like, oh, I guess I kind of like, you could say I've been hoarding resources, but it's more like again, meter in the game is amazing in that it compensates for everything. It makes your offense better, it makes your defense better automatically by just spending a little bit of meter. But that's gonna run out eventually, right? And so the idea is like, a lot of players, you have to be comfortable. Like, if you want to experience the hardest version of Rev 2, play with as little meter usage as you can without like especially defensively. Defensively is like where you'll notice it the most. Like if people don't have that kind of thing to fall back on, they slowly start losing these interactions over and over and over again, right? And again, meter is so strong that like, the way I would put it is like, say you have a high level player and like a mid level player, good usage of meter could give that mid level player such an edge in so many situations that they keep consistently beating the high level player in those situations, just because of how like one-sided the situations become, right? Say you have like a situation where you've reached like the end of your block string and you use like a special move, and you know, oh, okay, this is predictable, you have to special move, etc. Spending 25 bar makes that a free frame trap, right? That means there's a multitude of things that you're going to catch because of the slowdown in the frame trap, right? No matter what that high level player does, if they acted in that situation, they're probably going to get caught, right? And the idea is like, if they keep leveraging that, they're going to keep winning these interactions. But meter gain is not one-sided, right? So like, it's not that I've necessarily been hoarding them. It's just I haven't opted to use meter all the time, right? And so I've just been playing these situations naturally, right? A high-level player is good enough that they might survive situations defensively or offensively without meter. That's part of what they've like practice doing at some point or another.
Have to do. Yeah.
That's part of what makes them like a really strong player, is their ability to play without it sometimes. But the scary part is they can do it too. Like it's not like just because I'm good I won't do those things. It's the fact that I'm more comfortable with the game that says like, I don't feel like I need to do them all the time. I'm going to gamble and trust myself a little more in this situation. And so like to sort of like summarize that whole idea, that sort of gap in knowledge and experience is what makes it feel like, even when you might have a lead, especially like health wise, you might not have a lead on a lot of other aspects. And so like what I'm trying to say is like, it's not just like a tenacity to say like, oh, you know, I'm not giving up on this round. It's also like, it's more winnable than you'd think, kind of thing, right? Say I have like 15% health, my health is irrelevant if I'm hitting you. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So the idea is like, if I have like only a little bit of health, and you have, say, a good amount, like 65, 70%, and I have almost all my meter, you are in a very, very dangerous situation if you don't have any meter to work with. Yeah, like,
you basically have, like, as much health as I do.
Right.
Especially depending on your character and how much, like, they can output with that meter.
Yeah, so the idea is, like, you've spent all your meter to get to this point. I haven't. If I survive one interaction, and now it's my turn, I have all the meter to do that exact same thing to you if I feel like it, right? And so, like, you would think in theory, like, oh, well, wouldn't we just even out? You're going to spend all your meter and then, you know, not finish meat. Well, that's the difference. It's like, I will probably finish my food.
Yeah.
Right. And the big thing for a lot of like mid-level players who fight high-level players that feel like this is impossible, I just lose every freaking round, is the fact that like when you get to that point when you don't finish that round, that high-level player is coming for you, and like you now, because you spent all that resource usually on offense or neutral, you don't have any of it for defense, and defense is the hardest part of the game.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like you are in there. You have to survive so many interactions that it's like it's really hard. That's like the best way to put it. A big thing is like people kind of rush a lot when they're uncomfortable with the pacing of the game, and you know, like if you're less experienced and you're like, I understand, like, you don't want me to start my turn because you have no idea how my character works.
Yeah.
So it's actually just scary because, all right, well, I'm just rolling the dice, I might die. Right. But that is like the big difference. I don't give up in like situations in round 2 because, one, they're a lot more winnable than you think, depending on how resources have gone that round. It's just not easy to see if you're not like as comfortable with the game. But the other thing is, honestly, like it's a pretty degenerate game, and it's pretty easy to rob people. So it's really just about like making constant adjustment in the match and thinking about like, well, I'm not out of it yet, I'm just leveraging my possibilities. Like the way I think of it is like a really notable thing that you might see sometimes is like no good player is going to forget about their meter in Rev 2. But you might see people die with 75 bar every now and then, and they're really good players.
Yeah.
And honestly, the best way I could put it, because I do that sometimes too, is essentially what I'm doing in those situations is I am banking on my natural defense. I would rather survive naturally, potentially risk the round, and then get my turn back, because that is how much value I place in having that meter when it's actually my turn. I don't want to waste it. And so I'm clinging onto it so hard that I might die with it, right? Which is greedy. It is greedy, but it is a lot. It is like two perspectives on how you want to try to win a losable round or a losing round, right? Do I want to have enough faith in myself to survive this situation that I'm rewarded by not having used any resources when it's done? Or do I want to spend my resources to almost certainly guarantee I get to play again, but then have to win a lot more honestly? I have way less resources offensively to work with now. So I have to win more honestly, which is hard. That is really hard to do. And sometimes I find that harder than just trying to survive defense on my own. But when you fight... last thing would be like when you fight like a lot of those mid-level players, if you weather their storms, and the storms are a lot more manageable usually, then like you do the same to them, and you kind of just you beat them, and like what it might not feel like it, but it was kind of like a war of attrition. You survive their offense, and then they just don't do the same.
Yeah, I definitely find that I have a lot of trouble using meter offensively. So it does make sense that like I have the opposite problem where I dump all my meter into defense and then don't have any for offense. So I kind of understand that.
It goes both ways, which is really interesting, because a lot of what I try to like explain to once people are comfortable to like a good mid-level is like once you're in like a like for sure like, oh, I am mid-level, that is basically to me like the starting point in the race to like getting to good meter management, like really good meter management. Because again, like when you use meter a lot of the times, it is in a sense a crutch. A lot of people might say like, oh, I do perfectly fine against like this thing defensively, and then you don't realize like how much you're actually using meter to survive that, which might not seem like a big deal, but it is, because it'll start to inhibit you in other situations.
Yeah, meter is so interesting in this game.
The system they used, tension pulse, is like it's such a cool system. It's such a great system for designing like how you want the offense and defense to be played. Because again, like it rewards patience a good amount. A big thing is like if you start interactions and you spend 25 bar as soon as you get it, it's gonna take you really long to get that 25 bar back, where if you wait around, you could potentially reach like almost like over 50 bar in the time it would take you to have it built back that initial 25. Like you build more waiting to spend than you do spending immediately and then redoing it all again.
Yeah, and then having to work your way back up from having a tension pulse deficit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of comebacks, like it's mostly just that. It's also worth noting I play a character that does insane damage. If you do insane damage, like you're not out of it. It starts to affect how you think of the game. In the sense that like when I'm thinking about comeback, I'll never forget because it's like the funniest one that stuck with me in terms of like comebacks that just looked wrong were like that the kill the Biken Rev 2s that they ran one time. I'll never forget one round I played against Dave O where he had me, I think he has me at like 5 health. It's such a small amount of HP, and it feels like how could I possibly come back? But honestly, I think I had like 60 bar, something like that, and then he only had like 70 health or something like that, and so I got like one initial hit, one other good hit, and then one more hit. And that sounds like a lot, but it's really not, depending on how you approach situations. And it to me, it was like, honestly, because of how much resources I had in that situation, the way I thought of it was, okay, I'm essentially not guaranteed, but I'm in a really good spot to get like 1, maybe 2 good hits, just because of how much meter I have to play with. I'm probably gonna get those 2 good hits somehow, whether it's off of Yozansen overhead or a frame trap or building a ton of risk for free because of all the free pressure extensions I get off meter.
Yeah, and
then opening them up.
Uses meter really well as well.
Yeah, she pours it out like instantly. And she gets tons of mileage out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I win that round, and it feels like holy moly. But honestly, it boiled down to I used all my resources, I'm pretty sure, to win all the exchanges up until the last one. Whoever wins that last exchange wins the round, basically. And I won that exchange. So I win the round, right?
Yeah, I actually pulled a Devo match from a couple Rev Tuesdays ago, and there was a very similar moment where you both were on like he had like 15% health and you had like a fucking pixel, and you were just like, I have more meter, so
yeah, you just cash out.
Yeah.
You just cash out. Meter will always, in this game, it'll always cover your flaws. It'll let you play situations one-sidedly. Yeah. Right? And so the idea is like when you're mounting comebacks and you have meter in the pocket, if you're good at using it, you know how your character wants to use it, then it isn't, oh, I need 3 hits somehow. How am I going to get 3 hits to mount this comeback? It is kind of like, oh, well, I have meter. I'm essentially guaranteed 1 to 2 good hits, which is weird to think when you think like that. But honestly, it is a lot like that, which means I only have to win like maybe 1 exchange, honestly, like actually win 1 exchange, which is funny to think.
Yeah.
But it is like some comebacks are like illusions. They seem like bigger than they actually were when you look at the amount of resources and things that go into them.
That's why like made me think like it's basically like people talk about how strong offense can be in this game. Like every character has the ability to run like super scary strong offense. So that it makes me think like, you know, I like that idea of like, oh, I'm getting 2 hits. I have 100 bar. I'm getting 2 hits basically. I'll get a hit eventually, you know. It
is really, it's funny because like when meter's deficits are so apparent, you can sort of like feel in that round, oh, this guy's in a tough spot. Like you were like, everyone is kind of watching like, all right, man, good luck.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing is like when somebody does survive all the meter, those are the moments that people get excited for. When the guy who is clearly at a deficit survives incredibly disadvantageous situations, those are the moments where you're like, holy shit, like this is crazy, like that guy's so good.
Yeah.
And those are like the moments I think are interesting. Honestly, comebacks are funny to me because like I have such a jaded perspective on the game sometimes, having played it so much, that like people might see a comeback and be like, holy shit. And like me, I'm just like, yeah, he had like 75 bar. He only needed like 2 hits. Yeah. That sounds about right. Like good stuff. You did what you should have done, you know, in that situation.
Yeah. That's really interesting. That was a really interesting.
But yeah, practice your understanding of resource management and stuff, and you will feel like comebacks are probably a lot more surmountable than you think.
Yeah. I honestly, when I'm down, I'm on like a thing, I do feel like, and this isn't like necessarily like tension management, but I do like get down to a thing and I'm like, I have a level 3 house back there. It's not that big of a deal. I might mess up, I might lose the round, but I could do this. Yeah. It's
really funny to think about because like visually it might look a lot more, how do I put it? A lot less close than it actually is. Because sometimes, again, you might see somebody lose, and they were at the opponents at like 70-75 health, but if the guy that died had a ton of resources, say like burst and something else, that was actually maybe one good hit on that guy's part away from being pretty close to even. Like it doesn't feel like that visually, but that is actually, it's just them, they're essentially banking on that moment, right? I do that every now and then. You bank on your one good hit and then you cash in, right? If you cash in, you are in such an amazing spot, probably, like almost certainly. And if you don't, you just look like a buster. That's just how it works. It's sometimes it just looks like that. I know a lot of the times it might look like that with me, maybe more than other people, because I usually try to be more patient in early parts of rounds in terms of resource usage. You won't see me generally use a lot of resources in the early rounds unless there's more. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it in terms of like playstyle and matchup. But the way I think of it is like the reason you might see me maybe more than other people do like 20%, 30% health comebacks all the time is because I'm cool. I'm just chilling. Like the round, I'm banking on my moment. You know, I'm cool with that. I'll play the round out in that formula. Where
I mean, I feel that because I was watching these games that I pulled and I saw you versus Aether, and Aether kept using meter to like get the advantage, and you were like, I'm sitting over here, I'm just gonna kill you when you mess up. I think it's a good resource for most characters. I won't say it's for everyone, right? There are actually some characters, notably in the game, that probably have a good argument for like spending cash as soon as you get it. But I will say a couple of the traits that I have as a player are obviously like molded from having learned how to play good Baiken specifically. And one of the things that you'll learn at like if anyone is lurking and they're like an aspiring Baiken player is like actually another character. That's another great example. He's another one. Slayer and Baiken will teach you the importance of like wait around. Like, Baiken is a one-shotty type of character, if that makes sense. Like she aims for that one shot, because the way I think of it is like if I can build 75 bar, which is a lot of bar to say. Like, it doesn't, like, unless you're Johnny, you're not building 75 bar just like that. But in my head, that's how I try to think of the pacing of the match. It's, if I build this 75 bar, I have guaranteed pressure extension, guaranteed mix-up. And if those hit, God, it's going to do so much damage. That's the way I feel playing against, like, a lot of people. Is like, oh my God, they always have more bar than me. They always have more bar than me, which is partly because Jacko uses bar passively.
Jacko just uses it passively, so it's hard.
But I do think it is like a little bit in relation to like how I manage my meter, because I could not do the things that use bar basically. So
again, the thing is like it's tricky because like it is hard to play like that. I won't say it's like easy by any means to just say like I won't. It's hard for a lot of reasons, by the way. It's not just hard because it's actually hard to win interactions with meter. It's hard because it's kind of taxing on your mental sometimes as a player, because the way you think of it is like, man, this guy is just doing whatever he wants. Like this person is just going to town. Right? They're spending meter all the time. They're being aggressive, and I have to wait around. Like I'm just respecting it. I'm not doing anything. But the way I think of it is like I'm just waiting for my reward. If I survive the situation, you better. The way I think of it in my head, it's really funny to say, because if you see me play games, you're probably like, yeah, that makes sense that you're probably thinking that in these situations. Is in my head, I always think, you better kill me. I really hope you kill me. I hope you kill me off this exchange, because oh man, I've been waiting around, and like, you know, it's my turn now. That's how I think of it. I've been waiting around, and it's my turn. It's time for me to get paid.
Let me get paid and make the money sign.
And so like it's funny because you probably don't need to play like that as everyone. I do think it's beneficial for most characters to try to like have that that kind of mindset. But yeah, I wait around a lot. Baiken's definitely taught me that like I need 50 bar, and not only just that, the 50 bar I spend is a Roman cancel, which means it's always going to hurt my tension pulse, which means even if I win that opening, I'm not going to get the meter back, which is why it's so important to try to build even more meter than 50 bar, which is a lot of meter to build. She doesn't gain meter especially fast. She's not slow. I want to say she's like average probably. But
I feel like she's very similar to Soul in the way they use meter and the way they like gain and
it's definitely meter. Really interesting because like I think at the highest level for Baiken, if they know the matchup and they know how to play it, you have to play you're at a crossroads as Baiken. When they know the matchup and you're at like a super high level, it's okay, do I want to become like really degenerate, and do I want to force a ton of Azami interactions all the time so that I can force like situations and try to get rewarded, or do I want to just accept that my pressure is now a lot more interactive. I won't say like bad, but it's like way more interactive, way more abusable for the opponent to try to look for openings. Because again, like for her, spending meter like on YRCs all the time isn't really like a super viable option. Just because like you know that you don't have great mix-ups outside of Yazansen. And so you have to think like, okay, do I want to just force interactions off of a zombie like a natural core mechanic, or do I want to play really patient and wait for my one-sided like 50-50 that costs meter? I have to wait around for that meter to get it, right? And you have to play like pretty slow and pretty grindy to get that slow. And usually at high level, you'll see me in a lot of matchups try to opt for the slow, more grindy style when I can, just because it's significantly less volatile than relying on a counter.
Yeah, sorry. 1 second.
No, you're good.
I had to go get the Go Puff. Okay, I'm back.
Yeah,
I definitely get that. It can be like, it is more stable to rely on, and stability is very important in competitive fighting. If it's more stable to rely on building up a lot of meter to force your turn, than forcing a lot of interactions that might not work out for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a great summary. But yeah, that's in terms of like comebacks, all that stuff, that's pretty much how you want to think of it.
Yeah. So the next one, I'm not gonna ask this one because I think it's kind of moot at this point. But I did want to say, since we just talked about how like you think about mounting comebacks, how do you deal with your losses, like emotionally and like tangibly? So
I would say the big thing for me is like I will admittedly say like I don't think I'm that competitive as a person. I don't like, and it's not like shocking I think to say, because it's like it's not like I competed in Rev 2 until really recently.
Yeah.
I like competition. It's kind of weird to explain. I don't like competition necessarily for like the sake of competition. I love Exert at the highest level so much
that you'll compete to play it.
It's like a drug, yeah. It's like I need another hit. Like the Marvel players talking about crack, which means Marvel 2 to them. They just say they're gonna play crack or they had some crack or something. That is like me with a lot of high level Exert. It gives me all these unique interactions and this sort of satisfaction from being right in these situations. And also just I've talked about Exert as a game with like flow.
Yeah.
Is like a general term for describing like the character's offensive flow chart. Once it is flowing and once you get all your interactions right, is very smooth for most of the cast, and it just feels very satisfying to execute.
Yeah. So you basically just compete because it means you get to play.
Yeah, I compete because I like it at the highest level, and competition is where I'm going to get it more than anything else, obviously. Because it's like, I get it, like if we're playing casuals, a lot of the times I usually try like a pretty good bit in casuals because I like the high level interaction so much. But obviously like some people just play to mash. So it's like, I can't expect other people to reciprocate that.
Yeah.
But in competition, it's pretty clear. We're both here to win, right? How do you win? You win by playing as best as you can. How do you play as best as you can? Oh, well, you have to master these interactions to play at the highest level.
Yeah.
So it's really more like I play because the byproduct of that competition is what I'm after.
So the losses aren't as hard on
so
you
it's
because
like,
you're getting the satisfaction for why you would compete from playing, not from winning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is like I don't think that's probably, maybe it's a little more common for a game like Rev 2. Rev 2 is not like a money game, obviously. So it's not like people are after like a dub or after, like a big
You're not going to get a sponsorship for winning a Rev 2 tournament.
Exactly. So I would say like in terms of losses, I'm probably better now than I was before. I think for me, the comfort I get is like, I like Rev 2 a lot as a game. And I think the worst I ever feel in my losses is when I don't know why I lost. Like if I feel like, man, I lost and I don't even know where to start. Like, where do I change? What do I do?
Yeah.
But it feels like I lost just because I lost coin flips and I guess wrong in interactions. I'm not super uncomfortable. I'm just like, yeah, that just happens. Sometimes you're just wrong.
Is that why you hate Johnny?
I could go on and on about that. I've always hated. I shouldn't say always. Ever since I started competing, I've always like started to dislike him because for like having talked about how insane meter is, like a character that's so incredibly not reliant on it, like is insane to me. Like it is so crazy to me how many one-sided interactions that character can force, and how like passively strong he is in so many situations that it's like he upsets me just because he's that good. He's just that good as a character that you can feel that like skill deficit is starting to matter less and less. And I think that is probably it. I think he might be the one character that I still get like decently upset to losing to in tournament, because I feel that more. I feel like the top tierness of him so much more than a lot of other characters. But honestly, like, I think the worst I ever feel with my losses is when I don't perform well. Not in the sense that like I'm trying to meet other people's expectations. It's usually my own more than anyone else's. I don't really care about meeting expectations. But I think the thing that kills me is like when competition is just by its nature is you only have that one shot, right? Especially for like bigger events. If you don't perform well in that one event, it feels shitty because you know that you're capable of so much more, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel that, and I have a lot of trouble competing.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, I think the big thing is like I feel shitty in the moment because I think like, man, I could have done better. Like, oh, I played like ass, that kind of thing. But I think most of the time my mental just kind of like circles back to like, well, why do I care so much? And it's like, oh, that's like that kind of mentality to me is like that sounds like I'm trying to prove something, and I don't try to play fighting games to prove much. I don't think it is still a hobby, right? I don't want it to feel like something that weighs on my mental excessively. But
yeah, that's definitely an issue I have. Is I like play to prove myself, and I don't even know who I'm proving myself to.
Yeah, so, it's definitely it's like everybody. So many people have that kind of thing. It's you're definitely none of us are alone in that.
Yeah.
But I would say that like I'm not like I've never had a mentality. I know some people like are really competitive and they're like I want to win. Like I gotta prove that like I'm nice. And it's like all right, man, like go for it. You're good.
Yeah, don't like some people that is the way they enjoy the game.
Yeah, they enjoy like, but I think for me it's like I had spent so much time not. I'm a really I shouldn't phrase like that. I'm a weird person in that like for a guy who is so incredibly logical and sort of like cold in his approach towards learning and playing the game, I am oddly not driven towards like just winning, if that makes any sense. It's weird to think because you would think someone who's like if you've ever tuned into my streams and stuff, you'll hear me all the time be like, why would you do that? That interaction is bad, etc., etc. I critique people a lot, and it's like it's a bad habit I have. But the idea is like for a guy who talks and thinks like that all the time, you would think that I would be very interested in like winning and proving things, but honestly no. I've just been I'm oddly particular about like, oh well, there is in my idea, like my world, there is a right in quotations way to play the game. There's a right way to play the game. You're not playing it the right way.
Even if there's several right ways to play the game, if you're not playing the game in one of those right ways.
Yeah, exactly. There's a multitude of ways to play the game correctly.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm like pretty stubborn about that, and I will be like, I will have to tell myself like, people play the game however they want. Don't be weird about it. But yeah, in terms of losses, that's my way. I think my general advice for everyone else is like, if you are playing the game, you're probably playing it as a hobby. Obviously, it is great to strive for improvement. Feeling your losses shows that you understand that you can do better as a player, which is important.
Yeah.
But really more, it's just like, I've always had, I think it helps, at least for me, it's always helped to have a very like logical approach to when I lose. Why did I lose? Let me fix that.
Let me figure
and
it out.
It removes a lot of the like.
It removes
I just suck.
Yeah,
the mystery of it.
Yeah, the mystery of it. Yeah. So I think now we can probably move on to the videos.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna stream it for you just so you're not like behind like watching the stream.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is you versus Aether 9K. In Gold Burst, because I didn't want to just pull from Rev Tuesday. So he won the, if you don't like, just recap for everyone, he won their winners finals match pretty decidedly. Aether did, the Kai player. And so Bread grinded his way through all of everyone in losers, and after losing winners, so it was Hirsch and I think Zwei that you had to beat to get here.
I think so.
Yeah, and this is the culmination of that. This is the second game, so he's up 1, and let's see. Oh, it's picking. You see me in the chat down here. He gave Aether the Magnolia Eclair buff.
Oh, I want you to know that's not a coincidence. I also just like Magnolia Eclair, but I thought it'd be extra funny if I put Kai's theme.
That's the best theme.
That was randomly like kind of an asshole move on my part. But I deliberately was like, man, it'd be kind of tight if I just won a Magnolia Eclair right now.
Okay, so
I'll just win your character theme. I will say, so like a really big thing. because I lost. I'm clearly in losers right now.
Yeah.
A big thing for me is like if I lost, I have a very like I'm strict on myself, I guess, in competitive games enough that like I think I lost for a specific reason. Let me fix that. You know.
Yeah.
I would argue that I'm like pretty good at in the moment like making the adjustment, knowing like this is the wrong thing to do. Do the right thing. Right.
Yeah.
Like that. Genuinely, just that objective about it.
Yeah.
And I know when I vaguely remember
God,
my
you have
problems
100
and
meter here. Yeah, you are like grinding it out, and he's using a lot.
Yeah,
of
right. So now like he might win this exchange, but now if you don't cash out, you know, I'm gonna spend it for extension.
And Kai does have
more
issues
pressure,
cashing
and now,
out if he doesn't have bar for like Sacred Edge or something, or the setup for Sacred Edge.
And so now notice how we're like dead even, right? And he gets the anti-air. The big thing is like I got his burst out of that, like guaranteed. No matter what, when you play like that, you will probably always get something out of the opponent. The round, their burst, etc.
Yeah. Okay, and then you just kind of like go hard in this. This is kind of all you.
Yeah, any round where you see Baiken get counter hit Azami is like you are almost certainly at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
That amount of damage and that amount of meter gain for free is like insane, and it's a big part of what makes her like an insane character. So now it's just over. Yeah. Like,
yeah. No, you perfect him here. Yeah.
Those are tricky because it's like again I have a really like generic like let me play relatively reserved. Any big wins I get, I extend them as much as I can because I don't play making assumptions like that, right? I don't play assuming I'm gonna get an Azami counter hit. So when I do, it's like, oh, dope! Like I'm
dope. I'm party time. Oh no, block the burst.
Like all this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like just OS burst safe. And now, like, I would argue, so, like, big thing is, like, I don't just have a meter advantage, I have a burst advantage.
Yeah.
Right? It means
he
if
is
you
not
win an
going
exchange,
to get burst
I can just say no, you know? I can say, no, you didn't win that exchange.
Right?
And so playing that sort of, like, slow, grindy way is good at putting your opponent in a situation where, no, I just need you to be knowledgeable and know these situations and win out. Like, right? That burst bait is just a sequence. It's just, it's an automatic burst bait. If you give it to me, I'll take it. But if we play a handful of rounds and you never burst there, I'll probably stop doing it.
Yeah,
but it's a free burst if you give it to me, right?
Oh my god, that Azami to do Azami D on the TK was really funny. Okay, so that was an interesting match. Let me play. I didn't put these to loop, and I don't know why. Okay, next up we got you versus I think it was Marlon Pie that I had next. So this was actually, like, Marlon Pie has been, like, killing everyone in Rev Tuesday when he enters. And this
is this the first time? Was this
the first time you 2-0'd him? Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that at the time no one had beat Marlon in Rev Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
No one had beat him. He'd always, like, they beat and you know, like Pat has said, like, when Marlon's on Rev Tuesday, the first game's always the easiest one to win against him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, is like I learned a lot of fighting games through like other like good people, but not directly, if that makes sense. Like I would watch streams of people like Ramola and you know like Dave, like Chip Bears when he would stream. Like a lot of those like good Exert players, I would just tune in for their streams. And I love fighting Marlon because Marlon has a very similar mindset to me.
Yeah.
Like we both play very like. Oh, we're planning ahead. We're never in the moment, you know. You're planning ahead for situations. Like I die with all my bar here.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely a choice, right? It's a greedy choice. But I know that if I win, notice I died with all my bar.
And you still have burst.
So like go back really quick and like pause it on the frame he wins, right? And we'll mention it a little.
Okay.
Because this is a good example of like why I say like some things might not visually look as close as they actually are.
Yeah.
Oh wait, do you just have it playing in OBS?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so I can't pause it. Yeah.
Word.
Here, I'll instead I'll drag my thing over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the thing I will point out about when the round win happens is I lose with all my bar. Marlon wins with none, right?
Yeah.
And that's like that's not a coincidence. That kind of thing's not like a really like, oh, who would have thought? That's such a coincidence.
Where the fuck is this? Where's my kick shirt? I have it open. I hate this fucking shit. No, that's the Bread interview. That's Spotify.
Is it the 10-4-21?
Yeah, it's this one. Maybe if I open, but it's open. Like it's open. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna display capture. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah, I just display capture when I'm lazy.
I just have I have a second monitor, so.
I finally got my third monitor. It's very bougie.
Let's fucking go. Having bougie shit. It's not showing.
Having 3 is powerful.
Yeah.
Change the display you're capturing. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we got this match. So Marlon did an RC here on the chemical love, and then just mashed 5P.
But like the thing I think is really interesting about this is like if you look at like the outcome of that match.
Yeah.
I have all my bar, he has none. I also have my burst and he has his burst. So like you can clearly see the way that we think about the game in the sense that like I don't burst when I feel uncomfortable, right? We both think of
generally when most people end up bursting is when
right.
They feel
so
like,
but the big thing is like there's obviously like player knowledge involved too, because Marlon also is like good at like doing a lot of automatic burst safe routes and stuff.
I've been planning to play ever 17. I want to play it after I finish Umineko.
But
it's all my
elite
folders, yeah.
But yeah, so like the big thing here is like when you look at this, it's cool. I think it's cool because it's like I have my approach on the game is like there are some exchanges I should just have to win on my own without having to rely on like system mechanics like meter and burst. And Marlon's kind of like that too, similarly, because like even if I had survived, say like his last RPS, and then I start my turn, if I get a good hit, he's probably gonna spend his burst, right? And like the reason he gets to do that is because he won those initial exchanges. That's how I think about the game. Like that's his reward. He kept that burst. Similar with me, when I win exchanges early, I keep my burst, right? That way, when someone tries mounting their comeback, I spend it. I make it as hard for you as possible, right? But it is like. I less so think of burst as like an anti-combo tool, because I rarely burst like instantly on a lot of openings. I burst when it's guaranteed.
I burst in block stun a lot.
Yeah, bursting in block stun's fine. The way I think of burst is I think of burst as a small damage mitigation and a guaranteed reset.
Yeah, so you reset to it in a situation where you're both gonna have to do something anyway. Yeah.
And a lot of the times my perspective will mostly change as things slowly drift into like, I am so behind, I don't have the privilege of thinking like that anymore.
Yeah.
But a lot of the decision making, even that last hit to Johnson wasn't burst safe, but I need to start making such a strong comeback. I'm okay with him bursting, right? Like there are decisions that might feel like, oh yeah, like there wasn't much thought put in.
That was such a goated 5H. Just because because you saw him go for the IAD?
It's just so when I just know. So when I see that, I know that he has to spend meter if he wants to keep it safe. And I just gambled. I didn't think he was gonna spend meter. So what happens is that whole interaction is really funny because I was like, all right, well I'm gonna check him, but I didn't just check him like late with just 4H. I do 4H Roman cancel. That's why that RC comes out instantly. Because I knew like, all right.
That?
Yeah, it was just a lazy OS.
Yeah.
Because the idea is, all right, well, if you're throwable, I'll throw you. If you're not, and you give me enough time for this to come out, make note of his health and stuff. I only need a couple good hits. I don't actually need that meter anymore. The biggest priority I have is just making sure my turn starts again, right? And in this situation, the specific thing I gambled on was 4H and then Roman cancel, and it just happened to hit him. So it doesn't come out as a throw; it comes out as the 4H, and then the 4H hits instantly. Roman cancels. And then I'm just like, all right, cool. Same thing, right? Like notice he also just doesn't burst in this situation.
Yeah.
Right. We both are like relatively reserved with our burst. He's a little less. Sometimes I'll gamble on his burst.
Oh, that was such a good jump out, man.
But I know in
general, he optimized a Dr. Doom combo for how many teabags he could fit in it.
That is true.
Marvel 3, like.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah. Full. Really quick disclaimer before you talk about the Marvel 3 thing. That wasn't on purpose. I missed an input for the teabag.
Yeah.
So the teabag is obviously not on purpose.
No, I was just thinking for Marlon, like. Marvel 3, like it really makes sense, like how he thinks about this game in relation to Marvel 3. Yeah. Because he just kind of created that game, how it's played. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. Man, that was so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, right, so, like, even that last round, look, notice how far in advance I was and all the meter I had.
Yeah.
Right? It is kind of just a byproduct of playing Baiken. That like you know like all right the most reasonable way to play this is just like sit around on this meter as long as I can.
Yeah.
And like it works out in your favor because if you ever manage to win exchanges without it, you get free damage, and free corner carry, free meter gain, etc. And it just makes your job easier. It's when you're behind that it's really hard to play like that.
My friend the other day said doing strike throw is like clocking into a 9 to 5.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, the tricky thing about strike throw is like like you can hate and love it depending on the situation. So, there are moments where like I am really lazy and I play Rev 2 and I'm like, yeah, I'll just play Baiken. I don't want to have to guess right in an exchange. I would much rather you have to actually understand what's happening. And successfully block than me like, all right, we're both gonna RPS. And like I might be wrong.
Okay, this is just you versus Davo. I just felt like showing this one because I think Davo's one of the players.
When you close your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Davo's unfortunate in that like I think he has like the one play style that I don't think is that great against Baiken.
Yeah.
I think the way that he plays it's just like not super great. Because Soul definitely wins this matchup.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of like know it. Otherwise you just get Baikened like everybody else does.
Yeah, he does have that very like patient, like I'll wait for you to just do something kind of vibe, and that's hard to do against Baiken. Oh no. I need to backdash on Wake Up more. I always miss it.
It's good against occasional characters. The idea is like certain situations are just you have to rotate them no matter how intimidating it feels. I have a bad backdash habit. I do it a little too much.
Yeah. When I play Kayn, there's this like last time I played her, we both backdashed on Wake Up and then threw each other like 4 times in a row. I was like, this is good Guilty Gear.
Yeah. Good Guilty Gear is always when you don't see anything connect for like somehow like seconds at a time.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I don't know how if I mentioned this publicly.
But honestly, like stuff like this, I think that the funny part that's like part of what makes me think like, man, this character's so good sometimes, are the moments where like if you get good knockdowns, you can run pretty solid Okizeme without any meter, and like anytime you win those,
and
like those
screen too.
Yeah, anytime you hit those like delayed air dashes or anything, it's so good in terms of like building a lead because you have such an unfair 50-50.
Let's watch that again because that was really based. The Suzerain through to catch the
it's an annoying RPS for him to deal with if he doesn't know the matchup every now and then. Because like if you see something right, like I see him press 5H and so I'm like, all right, cool, let me just Suzerain because all your specials are bits. Right?
Yeah, true.
So you have to jump cancel here, or you have to like bait this another way. You can't just gunflame here, and the guaranteed counter hit state gives you that free combo.
That's some calculated shit. That's cold-blooded. I love it.
Oh yeah, you have full meter. He has none.
Right.
Yeah.
It is really then the air dash back JD is just a blitz / DP bait. But again, like the way I think of it is like now I'm big chilling because I have so much resources in that situation. It extends beyond just obviously I can run a 50-50 and win, but also like defensively now I can super whenever I want. You know, blitz is an option. The tricky part there is like having won all those exchanges like that. I'm so far ahead, and honestly, like, I think that type of style works like well no matter what for most matchups, as long as you have pretty solid defense, solid in the sense like you have a good understanding of when your opponent is kind of just like waiting for you to mess up.
Yeah. Okay, so the final question I wanted to ask you was, what would you tell a less experienced version of yourself?
I guess I would tell a lesser experienced version of myself probably to actually have competed sooner. Not for the sake of competition, but I do feel a little sad that I didn't get to hang out with the Rev 2. Like I never really like interacted directly much until the last like 2-ish years with people who just really love Rev 2. And like at the time I didn't. It's not like I thought I needed that. But I think now that I've had it, I'm just like, man, I do wish I had done it sooner, right? Because I never. Yeah, so I didn't do it because again I wasn't really interested in competition, so I was like, whatever. And I'm generally shy and introverted, so it's not like I go out of my way to interact with people. But But yeah, I do think once I started interacting with like the NorCal AFGC scene a lot more, they're all just great people. They love fighting games, specifically this one, just like I do. And so that relatability to them in that is like, now I don't see how I could like really exist without it. At the time, I guess I was just like, I don't know. I'd play Rev 2 sort of like in a vacuum, and I like the game, so it's not like I was sad doing it. I'd play it on my own and I would stream it. See if anyone popped through.
Yeah, but it's always
really,
nice to have people that are just there and love something as much as you do.
Yeah,
it always makes you feel better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's honestly that simple. My other thing would be, this isn't for me. This is for other new people in general. I do think that is true for everyone. I think if you're new, you should still just compete. Look for Blitz War tournaments, new stuff. You know.
Yeah, baby, watch
like
out for Blitz War.
Because what you'll realize is like it's tricky because maybe I can say that more easily because my mentality is the kind where I'm not super heartbroken when I lose. Like it doesn't weigh on me forever.
Yeah.
So because I know some people it does. But if it doesn't, then like I do think it's more like competition isn't what you're competing like entering that tournament for. You're entering it for like everything else, like the environment, the people. Competition is just like you're just playing some matches against someone to see who wins.
Yeah, it's competition is more like
it's why we're there, but I don't think of it as like why you should be there, if that makes any sense. It's kind of funny to think.
Like I was always scared to enter tournaments, and then I heard Sejim say beginner tournaments are not to see who's the best at the game. Like they're just not. It's about like playing the game and getting used to competition and learning, like finding other people to play with.
that is exactly it.
Yeah,
that is exactly
so
true.
that's definitely why
actually...
I run this.
But that's it. I would say that's what I would tell myself. That's what I told other new people in general. That honestly, yeah, I think that's it. Maybe I would have told myself to play Answer. He's very fun. Obviously, you can.
Yeah, no, you definitely look like you're really enjoying yourself when you play him.
I play him like outside of his bad match. He's like Soul. I kind of just play him if it's not a bad matchup.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's fun. All the characters I play, I have a great time with.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Brett. It was a very good time talking to you. It's always interesting to see how you think about the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone has quick questions they want to do.
Yeah, does anyone have questions? Like, I didn't get a lot for the Ray the Warrior one, so I just wanted to see. Does anyone have any questions for Brett?
Yeah. Most of the time, people just kind of hang out and listen. Yeah. But I always ask. In case anyone has. You know, like bike in specific, in general, competitive stuff, bike and stuff.
Jesse says, "Are you going to an offline event?" No, my man's got a job.
Not any local, sadly. I can't go. They have a Saturday local in SoCal that I should probably go to. But I've been like because I'm a not 9 to 5er, but you know, like 40-hour fucking full-time guy now. Like it kind of kills my incentive to go to a local, drive out to like LA on a Saturday. Yeah. Like an hour out and like.
Yeah, and you probably really don't like have any desire to go to like majors or anything, right?
It's tricky because like. It depends on the major, if that makes sense. So Frosties, I actually just can't go to. I mean, I just started my job. I'm not gonna like.
You're not gonna take a weekend off,
I literally, I'm not. It's too much of a hassle to go for just literally like a Saturday and a Sunday. And I'm too new to ask for the days off. But otherwise, I would have gone to Frosties just because it's a celebration of Guilty.
Yeah, it's the Guilty Gear day. Yeah, so maybe you'll get to go next year.
I would. Yeah, I'll go through next year. Yeah. But it's just like that one and like Combo Breaker mostly. Yeah. The thing about me is like I've already said like I'm not invested in the actual competition there. I'm invested more in like
to get those casuals.
Get the casuals and like vibe with people in the atmosphere. And like some tournaments are much better built for that than others is the idea, right?
When I went to Frosties last year, I had a great time. But when I went to Evo, I was like, this is kind of lame.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. Like that's the exact tournament I was gonna throw the name out for. Is like Evo, for example, is actually really close and like relatively doable for me being in SoCal, like going out to it. But I just know if I go out to Evo, that it'll be a little more focused on the actual just like Rev 2 side bracket. Yeah. Then it's gonna be about like hanging out, getting casuals.
I had a great time at ECT too. ECT was like
ECT's a good one. ECT's a good one.
Yeah, that one was really fun.
But yeah, to answer your question, it's not that I'm not interested, but one, money's right, obviously.
Yeah, money.
Expensive to go out. But I might try to go to Combo Breaker. I should be fine. Like like vacation days wise by then.
Yeah. I was
But
thinking
know,
about going to Comic Driver, but I haven't decided. Are you gonna go to Slashback?
I might actually. That's in like
Yeah.
March, right? That is actually
Yeah.
pretty close. I might go to Slashback.
That's in NorCal. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
San Jose.
Yeah. So maybe I'll go to Slashback. That one's pretty close. I might see if I have the day. I might ask for like the Friday or the Monday of that week, and see if they give it to me, and then maybe if they do, I'll go. But it's like Slashback maybe, and then maybe Combo Breaker. But again, they're just kind of far out, and when I know I'm not specifically going for the tournament,
yeah. It's hard to like get yourself excited about it and want
exactly.
To, like,
so
make it happen.
like I do want to go because the vibes and like watching and enjoying competition is also something everyone can like, not just myself enjoys. But as far as like looking to grind and be the #1 Rev 2 player, like I wouldn't hold your breath for me. Like I'm the kind of guy that's like I would pull up the Slashback and wonder like, do I want to play Biken in the bracket or like do I want to play Answer?
yeah. Playing Answer would be fun.
It would be really fun. The only reason I would play Biken is because it's like, all right, it's kind of corny not to enter as Biken, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I say like I'm not out to prove anything for anybody else, but I do feel kind of bad in case anyone is invested to see how I would do as like playing Biken.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like if I ever entered as her, it would be more for others than it would be for myself.
That's
lame. Just so people can be like, oh, I've always wanted to see you versus this guy, and I was like, all right, yeah, sure. Like,
sure.
I'm not invested one way or the other really. So
yeah.
if it would make someone else happy, then yeah, sure, I'll play. Biken.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions? If not, I'm going to head off the stream and let Bread go because I really have to pee.
But yeah, this again.
Okay.
Just to reiterate, this was dope. This was very fun. I'm happy that you guys.
Well, actually, I haven't announced the next one yet. We're gonna have Solstice on for the next one at the end of the month.
Oh, that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. Then we got Name Your Game next Saturday, and the Saturday after that, I haven't announced this yet. We're doing a Ram Rithal versus Elfelt team fight. It should be really fun. Yeah. So thanks for coming, Brett. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this was good. I'm always very big fan of these.
Yeah, this was definitely a fun thing to do. So, have a nice day. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You guys have a great Saturday.
The Training Mode Network. Contest. Kato said if they come up with the question, they might ask you on your stream, Brad.
Oh yeah, always.
Usagi said, "Yeah, I just joined. Is he going to Frosty's? No, he's not. He can't get the days off. Usagi, want your ass though." Enter as Biken.
Why is that's because Yasagi is privileged. All the East Coast people, you guys get mad events, which is like that makes sense. It's cheaper out there, but like, dude, I'm out in SoCal. It's way too expensive.
Yeah, true.
What do you care? Yasagi probably gonna win. He plays Johnny. You got it. Just avoid the one Dizzy player in bracket, bro. You got this. That's it.
Is Ray going to Frosty's?
Yeah, I believe he is.
Okay. I actually really have to pee, so I'm gonna log off. But thank you so much, Fred.
Yeah. I'll catch you guys later.
Okay, bye.
千の風情願望の無名三千の少量 Necessary In the light That's what the sensation It's never over yesterday I'm the time inside Second to them 芸道の不足で式三千の風情願望の無名三千の少量 Necessary In the light That's my sensation Today we will never begin I'm the time inside I don't need your sympathy Why would anyone leave me alone? If I had a comrade, I wonder what I would tell them. Yes, yes, I knew the answer.